What's up, folks? My name is Detroit Miracle. Yep, and I wish that they would have kept the 80s around as far as themes, attractions, music, TV shows, and films. Yeah, I mean, not the actual years of the 80s, but all the best of the 1980s. Things have changed dramatically over the last, 30, 40 years. Hey, I grew up in the 80s, so I know how wonderful it was. Yeah, it was so great. I almost decorated my room like it. Yeah, if you look at things the way they are now, it's not like it was in the 1980s. Take the TV shows now, as far as the cop shows, all of the cop shows are not really action based anymore. Not like they were in the 80s with shows such as Miami Vice, Crime Story, and Hunter. Yeah, now things are more serious with those cop shows. Like I said, it's more a procedural. They try to make it the all actuality of what cops do for real as far as how they prepare cases and study them and interrogate people. But back in the day, it's rare that you saw Crockett and Tubbs or Miami Vice interrogate people. Yeah, they would do it every now and then, but for the most part, they got into a lot of shootouts. And those shootouts were usually one sided where they would shoot people. The same with Hunter and Crime Story. And it's crazy that cop shows now go about 15 or 20 years on an average as a run, whereby back then cop shows were just going maybe 5 or 7 years. Yeah, that's boggles my mind now. There's so many cop shows, cop related shows that look at all the CSI shows, look at all the NCIS shows, look at all the Law and Order shows. It's amazing that those cop shows are going that long as in a run on network television. I'm going to be honest. I tried to get off into watching some of those cop shows. They're all right. They're entertaining, but they seem too real. They seem like something like that people have to really deal with. So they don't really captivate me that much. If I want to see that, I could just go to a court downtown and watch some of the trials or hang around the police stations. You know, but with Miami Vice, Crime Story, The Hunter, and the A Team, it was like a bunch of shoot 'em up, kill 'em up stuff, except for the A Team. Like Hunter, every episode he got into a shootout, or just about every episode. It was on a real Miami Vice. They had like record numbers of shootouts where they were shooting at drug dealers, Colombian cartels, mafiosos. And then they had a lot of cool items in there. Yeah, it's like I said, things of the 80s are not here and now. Yeah, you can rent stuff from the 80s, like movies and stuff, or buy stuff on DVD, and even buy albums from the 1980s, but it's just not quite the same. And then, with that being said, I think the people in this generation is missing out on a lot of wonderful things from the 1980s, such as in the case with music, TV, and movies. Like I said, now let's get to music. Oh, the 80s was out cold. It was awesome, like pure awesome. I know nowadays we got people like The Weeknd, Lady Gaga, Marilyn Manson, Adele, and there's probably some others, but back then we had Michael Jackson, Prince, Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, Sheena Easton, Elton John, Paul McCartney, Kiss, the Rolling Stones. Hey, the list goes on and on. Oh, I can't forget about Stevie Wonder. We had all that stuff boomed in the 80s, all those songs. And it was insane. It was like wonderful. We had plenty of music. And even before hip hop blew up, there was still a lot of great genres of music to the point where, as kids, when we came home from school, we had an option either to listen to a lot of great music on the radio or watch TV. Yeah, doing homework wasn't an option, if you know what I mean. It wasn't an option at all. Yeah. Hey, it was to some who cared about their education, though. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was sitting around thinking about the 1980s themes. Thriller, the Thriller jacket, WrestleManias. Yeah, the WrestleManias in the 80s was cool. The loudest I talk, it seemed like that dog is trying to out talk me by barking louder to get my attention. He way across the street and he's still like trying to be annoying. Come on, dog, I'm not bothering you out here, man. Why don't you cool it? Hey, I like dogs just like anybody else. Come on now. Yeah, things now, like, I think that it's wonderful and terrific the way things are now, but it's not like of the past, and especially in the 1980s. And like I said, kids in this generation have missed out on the 1980s. They can't imagine just how wonderful it is. Hey, I was born in the 1970s and I came up through the 70s, but I was a little boy, so I couldn't gain a full appreciation of life until I came into my fullness of comprehension, wit, creativity, intelligence, talent. That would take many years later, I know. The 70s were cool, but the 80s were like a big boost from the 70s. It was a boom where everything skyrocketed. It was like incredible and amazing. Yeah, I'm from the 1970s, but I'm also an 80s type of dude too, people. Yeah, I know people might be like, yo, you're just thinking about TV shows mainly and music. We know all the TV shows, especially the cop ones, had a bunch of killing and violence. Yeah, but I'm not. I just don't mean that. The point I'm trying to make is like they put more seriousness in this era, in this day and age, and they take more of the fun out. That's what I'm trying to get at. That's what I'm trying to articulate. Like like TV shows, music, they are a little bit too serious these days. They're more serious. Yeah, we still got party music, party stuff. Yeah, it's nightclubs around there, and there always will be. But the quality of artists in the musical industry isn't like it was in the 1980s. Whoa, where are those 80s people that will agree with me? Back then, if you watched an American Music Award or Grammys, it'd be like a star-studded event. Like people that will attend would be people like Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Madonna, Prince, Sheena E, Stevie Wonder, Elton John, Luther Vandross, Anita Baker. Yeah, even she attended. Diana Ross. Oh, it was Paul McCartney and a whole bunch of rock giants. It was off the cheesy. Everybody would come and watch those events where they made sure that everybody was watching those musical award shows back then. But now nobody cares about them like they did. It's like, oh well, it's because the quality of artists isn't like it once was. I'm not saying that artists now aren't incredibly talented. Yes, they are, but not compared to those artists of the 1980s. And when you get to hip hop music, it seems like, just say with the exception of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls in the 1990s, the best lyricists were from the 1980s of hip hop. Yeah, Tupac, I always thought he was ahead of his time anyway. I always thought that he had the 1980s in him as far as being a great lyricist, but he brought that into a modernized era in the mid to late 90s. Yeah. And Biggie too. Biggie was a great lyricist, a great writer. In ways, he was a bit underrated in ways, but he was amazing. He was writing a lot of their albums too, like the Junior Mafia, Little Kim, his own albums. Biggie was a dangerous brother too that way. Say, with the exception of people, I know Nas too, Nas and Jay-Z of the 90s. They're awesome lyricists, but with the exception of those four guys in the 1990s, all the greatest lyricists were from the 1980s. You know, they were insane with it, sick with it. I know people want to know exactly who, since I brought that out and I'm opinionated with it. Well, Eric B and Rakim were super lyricists. Special Ed was a super lyricist. LL Cool J was a super lyricist. Yeah, Run DMC and DMC were super lyricists. Rakim of Eric B and Rakim was super lyricists. Hey, that's undeniable. And I'm just naming those guys of a few, but there are many more. You know, I could get off into other types that were more harder, like Just Ice, Ice Cube, people like that. Yeah, there was lyricists that were dope from the West Coast in the 1990s too. They were the ones that were really good were standouts, of course, like that. Then it was great rappers from like the South. This was probably be in the early 90s, like we know Scarface or the Ghetto Boys. Hey, I'm not gonna leave my homeboys out. I almost forgot. The latest 90s, early 90s, Detroit Most Wanted, Put the Suckers to Sleep, My C Skeet. Man, they were dope lyricists. AWAR was a dope like lyricist group. Detroit's Most Wanted was a group, but they had dope lyricists in it. They were out cold. Like who else? Uh, Eshawn was a dope lyricist. He was like in the 90s. He was again, he wrote all his stuff, made all his own music. Yeah, people. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You better believe it. Yeah. Well, folks, smoke that over and give me your opinionation. I'd appreciate it if you would give me those likes, comments, and please subscribe to my channel, Detroit Miracle. Peace out.